welcome to SVG-TV's news for Monday, November 11th, 2024. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, is carrying out a damage assessment across St. Vincent and the Grenadines following the passage of two other systems over the weekend, which caused flooding in several areas. Director of NEMO, Michelle Forbes, stated that so far NEMO has received 20 reports from individuals affected by landslides or the collapse of retaining walls, with the majority of the damage occurring on mainland St. Vincent.
In and around Kingstown, around by the Graves supermarket area, we had flooding in Calico yesterday. We have had several reports of retaining walls falling, mainly in the southern part of mainland St. Vincent. We have had some heavy flooding also in Beckwith, and some flooding and rainfall, heavy rainfall in Union Island that would have had drains overflowing, etc. So not a lot. We have about 20 reports so far, mainly landslides and some retaining walls up in the interior of the island, Kilburn, Bel Air area. We have some in Sharps. And, of course, Braxton would have had a lot of landslides along the roads and had to clear a lot of landslides up in the Mespo along the eastern side of the island going out. So mainly flooding and landslide we have had reports from over the weekend, and we expect to, at least by tomorrow, we should have most of the reports coming in.
Forbes added that reports have also come in from the Grenadines, primarily from Beckwith and Union Island.
Reports. We have had all the reports from Beckwith. Beckwith mainly cleanup, flooding along the roads, drains overflowing, etc. I think there was one, no, I don't think, there was one home I saw had also some flooding, but not inside of the house itself. So we had the reports from Beckwith since about Saturday, Sunday. They had some pretty heavy rainfall and mainly flooding along the road and the drains being blocked, etc. No reports from Union Island in terms of damage to home, but I know the rain blowing and wet up some things that persons had in Union Island in some of the homes that already started repairing and persons are living. So it's just mainly flooding and landslides.
Persons are being urged to cooperate with NEMO, as standard procedures must be followed when documenting damage reports.
We coordinate. What happens, you make your report, we coordinate with the relevant agency that has to address it. So the assessments will be done by the Ministry of Transport and Works to determine the level of damage, etc. And if there's assistance to be given, then it's referred to the relevant ministry that supports that assistance. So that's always that's a standard for every emergency. Once a report is made, we must document it and do the assessment and have the relevant agency deal with it.
SVG was placed under a flash flood warning yesterday, which was later downgraded to a flash flood today. In its 72-hour weather outlook, the SVG Meteorological Service reports that unstable conditions will persist across the islands, with the moisture levels expected to decrease tonight. Low-level cloud patches are expected to converge over the islands again on Thursday, bringing a few showers. Sea conditions are currently slight to moderate in open waters, with swells near 1 meter on the west of the island and 1.5 meter on the east of the islands. Swell heights are expected to rise on Tuesday, with occasional northerly swells and moderate sea conditions up to 2.5 meters across SVG. Small craft operators and sea bathers are urged to exercise caution due to the breaking wave action and rip currents. The SVG Met Services will continue to monitor developments across the Caribbean Sea and tropical Atlantic Ocean, issuing updates and advisories as necessary. On Sunday, the Aurora cruise ship carrying over 2,500 passengers was turned away from Port Kingstown after it was unable to dock due to the terminal being occupied by a large vehicle carrier. In the evening, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Port Authority issued a statement explaining that the vehicle carrier sustained damage to its hull while attempting to berth at the Kingstown Cruise Terminal. Had the incident not occurred, the cargo vessel would have departed in time for the Aurora to make its scheduled call. The Port Authority said an investigation into the cause of the accident is underway. The Splendid Ace, registered under the flag of Japan, remains moored at the Kingstown Cruise Terminal. The Port Authority noted that while the cargo vessel remains temporarily disabled, all of its cargo was successfully unloaded. However, the position of the breach located just above the waterline presents a significant operational challenge, and the damage requires professional assessment before the vessel can be safely moved from its current location. It was also highlighted that the use of the Kingston Cruise Terminal became necessary after Hurricane Beryl caused several serious damage to the main Kingston cargo pier. Shifting cargo operations to the cruise terminal on a temporary basis has allowed some aspects of maritime trade to continue, albeit with certain functional limitations. In a statement, the Port Authority expressed regrets over the inconvenience caused by the incident, particularly to those who were more adversely impacted. The management reassured the public that all necessary measures are being taken to restore operations at the cruise terminal as quickly and effectively as possible, while prioritizing safety, security, and avoiding further complications by moving the vessel prematurely. Another cruise ship, the Adia Pearl, with 3,500 guests, is scheduled to dock at Kingston on Friday, November 15th. This is not the first such incident since Hurricane Beryl damaged the Kingston Cruise Terminal. In October, a worker driving a van accidentally plunged into the sea with a vehicle. The worker was successfully rescued with minor injuries. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive Officer of the SVG Tourism Authority, Anna Mark, said that it is unfortunate that the cruise ship was turned away on Sunday. However, she emphasized that they remain ready for the next cruise call scheduled for Friday, November 15th.
This is an unfortunate situation, but it is an operational issue at the port, and I think that the best person to properly address any questions would be the CEO of the Port Authority. In respect to our readiness to welcome guests, cruise passengers here to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are ready to make sure that persons experience that have that immersive experience while in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have we want them to enjoy our culture, enjoy our food, enjoy our people, enjoy St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and, just create that experience. We are ready from the Tourism Authority side.
Minister of Agriculture Sabota Caesar has announced that advanced preparations for the upcoming drought season next year are on the way. These preparations include the purchase of water tanks not only for agricultural farmers but also for livestock farmers. Speaking at the launch of the Farmer Support Company and Medicinal Cannabis Authority, Minister Caesar emphasized that the government is fully aware of the implications of climate change on agricultural production and productivity as a result of proactive measures are being put in place to mitigate the impacts. Minister Caesar stated that these efforts are designed to support farmers during challenging times, particularly when faced with adverse weather conditions. He assured that the government is committed to safeguarding the livelihoods of those in the agriculture and livestock sectors.
We are going to work with the livestock farmers in the country. We have already purchased over 60 water tanks that we will be providing to assist you so that in the months of January, February, March, and April, when it gets extremely dry, that you will be able to support your production as it pertains to livestock.
Meanwhile, the minister said that production support for both farmers and fisherfolk will soon begin as part of the ongoing efforts to help the industry recover following the damage caused by Hurricane Beryl. In a related development, Minister Caesar announced that the production of sea moss will soon begin in North Leeward. He revealed that 10 individuals have already expressed interest in participating in the sea moss farming initiative, signaling a promising start for the sector.
And I was advised that just as it is done on the leeward side of St. Lucia, that on the leeward side of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and particularly in North Leeward, that there is space for us to attempt the production of sea moss. And this is something that we are going to work with some of the young persons who are into fishing. We are going to come right here in Chateaubillet and have a meeting with about 10 also young persons who will wish to participate in that venture.
The Ministry of Agriculture is focused on diversifying and expanding the agriculture sector to meet both local demand and international markets, and the launch of the CMOS production is seen as part of that broader strategy. With the expansion of the UTC Global Balance Fund Limited, UTC-GBFL, into St. Vincent and the Grenadines, intentions are being encouraged to consider strategies for preserving and growing their wealth. Speaking at the launch of the UTC-GBFL at Sandals yesterday, Regional CIS Manager Omar Broch-Smith emphasized the importance of investing as a means of improving one's financial position.
We save very well in the Caribbean. We have $26 billion in excess liquidity in our banks across the ECCU. In St. Vincent is about $3 billion alone, right? It's a lot of money. But we haven't really started to invest. And the bank pays us 2%, and that's okay. But the rate of inflation over the last 3 years has averaged about 8%. So you're actually losing $6 on every $100 you have in the bank if you only invest in, right? I was making a joke on radio recently. I landed, went to the supermarket, won't say which one, and I saw a bottle of Downy that I usually buy in St. Lucia that cost $32 in St. Lucia, and it was $20 here, and I was so excited I wish I could take it back. But that bottle of Downy that's now $32 in St. Lucia used to be $22 last year, right? So by my math, that's about 40%, right? So this is the kind of inflation that we import because we are importer nations, and we basically have to take what the first world gives us. When you think about wealth preservation in the context of heading towards your retirement, if you retire now and you live for another 30 years and you start getting a pension now, inflation is going to beat that pension 30 times over, right? So you need to put measures in place to ensure that you're either at the level of inflation or you're surpassing it in order to preserve your wealth.
Broch-Smith explained that an initial investment of $100 is required to participate in the UTC-GBFL. He also noted that the Bank of SVG and First Citizens Investment Services Bank, ACT, act as brokers for the fund.
It's nice to have a big bank account. I wish I could say the same or experience that one day, but it is nice to see the money in the bank. You know it's safe, but you need to think beyond that, all right? It's affordable. So I've spoke very glowingly about the Eastern Caribbean securities market, but the reality is for a number of investments available now, if you wanted to buy a government of St. Vincent Treasury bill, the entry point is 5,000 EC, right? To invest in UTC Global Balance Fund, it's 100 US. It's 100 US to start, and any purchase of shares after that, the minimum is 20 US. So it's affordable and it's accessible to every man on the street.
He further reassured prospective investors that the UTC-GBFL is not part of a pyramid scheme.
Regulatory oversight, that is very important. Is UTC-GBFL regulated? Yes, it is. It's regulated by the Eastern Caribbean Securities Regulatory Commission, the sole regulator for securities business in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and throughout the OECS. During the pandemic, there were a lot of pyramid schemes, right? There were a lot of other schemes. My taxi driver, who I've grown very close to, he told me that he invested in FX and it didn't go very well. So there are folks trying to do some more, but there's a lot of stuff that isn't regulated. We are regulated. In addition to the regulations, or in addition to the regulator, a key component that exists as well is our custodian. So the custodian comes from the word custody, and what that means is all the assets of GBFL are held in custody. That's required by law. So when you invest, you walk into Bank of St. Vincent, you invest 100 US, that money is remitted to the custodian, the Eastern Caribbean Central Securities Depository.
The UTC-GBFL is primarily a medium to long-term investment vehicle, but investors can redeem their shares at any time. On Sunday, November 10th, 2024, St. Vincent and the Grenadines joined the rest of the Commonwealth in honoring brave men and women who served and sacrificed their lives in World Wars I and II. In keeping with the annual tradition, the day's events began with a solemn march through the streets of Kingstown. The march was led by the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force Band and included a number of uniformed organizations such as members of the military police, fire services, and youth groups, all paying tribute to those who fought in the world wars. The procession culminated at the Cenotaph in Kingston, where 2 minutes of silence was observed at 11 a.m. in remembrance of those who made the ultimate sacrifice. This was followed by the laying of wreaths at the memorial as a mark of respect and gratitude for the bravery and sacrifices made by military personnel during the war. The event was attended by several prominent dignitaries, including Governor General Dame Susan Duggan, Acting Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel, members of Parliament, and representatives from the diplomatic corps. They stood alongside veterans, families of fallen soldiers, and citizens in a unified moment of remembrance. The National Day of Remembrance, observed annually on the second Sunday of November, is a time for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, along with the other Commonwealth nations, to reflect on the lives lost in military service and to honor the courage of those who fought for peace and freedom during the 2 world wars. In other news, this week is being observed as Teachers Solidarity Week under the theme Empowering Our Teachers and Investment in the Future. On the SVG-TV Speaks program on SVG-TV, President of the Teachers Union Oswald Robertson highlighted the importance of teachers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines celebrating the occasion, which stems from the struggles of 1975. That year saw a breakdown of talks between the union and authorities, which led to significant action.
We want to salute that national executive of 1975, being led by Honorable Mike Brown. He was the leader of the Teachers Union. The vice president at the time was Yvonne Francis Gibson. And while you'll hear a lot about Yvonne Francis Gibson, because as you know, she was imprisoned, many things happened to her, but we can't forget the man, the leader, the president, Honorable Mike Brown, who led the teachers in that historic struggle, and his executive, people like Pajak still around, Mr. Kenneth Douglas, and many more, Julian Jack, force manager and CEO of the Teachers Cooperative Credit Union. There were many issues why the teachers strike in 1975, or the struggles of 90s, and so the teachers at that time, they grouped them into 5 main areas. Right, they summarized them into 5 main areas. One of them was a retroactive payment. The government had promised them a retroactive payment, and this was not forthcoming. And there was that struggle or contest between E.T. Joshua and Milton Cato to see who would succeed the power at that time of the government to fulfill that promise. So Milton Cato was promising and was not fulfilling its promise. Then there was need for a salary increase. I think it was a $60 increase. At that time, $60 was a lot of money. So there was that promise, and that was not forthcoming. Then the repeal of the Public Service Act. That act more or less curtailed teachers from speaking in public on matters of national importance. So the teachers were being restricted, and the teachers felt that this was an infringement on their fundamental right to freedom of expression. And so they were struggling against this draconian piece of legislation.
Robertson noted that some of the issues teachers fought for in 1975 are still affecting them today.
Poor salaries, low salaries, and that is something that we have to look at, because if we are going to attract the best persons into the teaching profession, we need to pay some attention to the salaries. And while we are doing so, we want to remind the government that the teachers who are in training at the community college, most of them do not have a salary. And this impacts on their morale. It's part of working conditions also. We need to pay attention to poor working conditions also now. We reflect just last week, the Kingston Preparatory School had to close a little earlier on Friday, in fact, last week, because the teachers' toilets were not functioning. And we need to show some respect to teachers, especially when it comes to health and safety. And early this week, a few days ago, news came to the teachers union and we started to flex our muscles to advise the staff at the Kingston Preparatory School to inform the parents that they cannot work under these conditions any longer. Because even though Braxa was informed last week, Friday, about this condition with teachers' toilets at the Kingston Preparatory School, the whole weekend passed, and it was on Monday the teachers felt even much more uncomfortable to operate under those circumstances. And so what happened is that we had a situation where they came urgently after they understand that the union was about to take some kind of action, drastic action, to remedy the situation or to put pressure on the authorities to do what they're supposed to do. The Ministry of Health has a responsibility to advise the other ministries when it comes to unhealthy situations, risky situations, which could compromise the safety and the health of students, teachers, and other occupants of educational institutions.
The SVG-TU president is encouraging teachers island-wide to actively participate in the activities for Teachers Solidarity Week 2024.
We are encouraging our teachers to take advantage of and utilize your fundamental rights of freedom of association and freedom of assembly. That when the union calls you to assemble in legitimate trade union activities, in this case we have a stewards workshop scheduled for the 12th, we ask you to come out, associate with your union, use your fundamental rights, which is enshrined in the Constitution of the land, which is the supreme law, to assemble with your union. Stand tall with your union and respond positively when we call you. We have our annual general meeting coming up Wednesday, the 13th. We have our march and rally. We are calling you out. Stand with your union. Demonstrate your courage, your love, your first love for the organization that would stand up for you. And do not be fearful about any intimidation or any threat. Any threat or intimidation is a violation of your fundamental right. It's a violation of the collective agreement that we signed with the government. It is a violation of the Trade Union Act. The Trade Union Act, and there's a new labor relations bill which is emerging, which also speaks to anyone who interferes or intimidates you when you exercise your fundamental right of association with an organization.
Activities for the week will include a workshop, the annual general meeting, the CWP Memorial Lecture, the President's Awards, and the cocktail event. The week's events will conclude on November 17th with the annual Teachers Solidarity March and Rally, which will take place on Friday, November 15th.